for sticking around to this last. I got a little itch in my eye there. Last segment of the show. The big national news was that Donald Trump fired his campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, yesterday. He was escorted out of Trump Tower by security. None of the staff knew about it until they read about it in the paper. I mean, it just when he lets you go, he lets you go.
Oh yeah, well, and he doesn't mess around. I mean, that's that's always a tough thing. If you're running a business, letting somebody go is always a tough thing because if you're in a small business, if you're in any business, you get to know these people personally. And that's the best way to do it is just get them. Now, we had Trump's national co-chair, Sam Clovis, on here. He has a great quote. We're heading in a different direction. Corey didn't believe in that direction, and we're going to move forward. Now, since that time, I've been reading a ton of different articles that really because Lewandowski was the guy that said, hey, let Trump be Trump and let it go. And that worked in the primary. But let's face it, you've said it. I agree with it. It's not working in the general. Or did I say that wrong?
No, you're right. Yeah.
And so the problem really is, I think what happened is I've heard from multiple sources, multiple little birds that I know have told me that Lewandowski has been alienating the Trump children.
Yes.
I don't care what you say about Donald Trump.
Widely reported on.
Oh, yeah. I don't care what you say about Donald Trump, but my birdie said that was the reason. Finally, Lewandowski finally had taken on the Trump children, and that's a no-go. I mean, you leave kids out of the primary.
Well, no, they're not kids anymore, but
it doesn't matter. They're still children. Trump.
The CNN report that I saw had a source that said that he didn't get along with Ivanka's husband, Eric Kushner, who is in charge of the transition team with
Jared
Kushner, yeah, with Chris Christie, and that was a big deal. And she and Eric finally sat him down and said, "Dad, he's got to go. There's no way you can't win with him on the team." And I guess the question I'd ask you, because I was surprised, were you surprised? This feels like a damned if you do, damned if you don't moment for the Trump campaign, though, because it's very clear that he was the element that just had Trump's ear, was the guy saying double down on everything. He was sort of the one that was letting Trump indulge in the more negative aspects of his personality, the name calling, all the rest of it throughout the primary, but letting go of your top campaign guy in such a public, well, it's going to be public anyway, but in such a sudden sort of kind of the cap of a bad 6 weeks. It's been a bad 6 week rollout for the Donald Trump general election campaign. So I viewed it as negative all the way around. How did you see it?
Well, listen, it's never good to can your top guy. But let's. I mean, we had Sam, and not to reveal any secrets, but Sam, had said this guy was alienating, and there are good people that left because of this guy. Number two, Trump has never had a streak go this long where he was down a week, maybe 2 weeks, and then he would come back. Well, it didn't look like he was coming back. Three, he needed to pivot somewhere. He needed to do something different because the attacks that he's not presidential were starting to stick. He wasn't.
Yep.
He's now turned the corner. Just today, he started, because, generally he would just kind of, people would use a lot of social media to attack him, and he would kind of do his own stuff back and forth, right? And suddenly today, he had a much more professional retort to each and every statement that Hillary Clinton made during a speech. And generally, he would wait till the end of the speech. Well, that just shows a change in his attack style right now. You can say a lot of things about Donald Trump. You can talk about how he's done a lot of shady things. You can talk about how he's had a lot of bankruptcies. At this point, he has learned his lesson. If things start going south, you need to make a change and start moving forward. For me, it's a rough thing to do, but I think overall for his campaign to pivot and try to be more presidential is something he needed to do.
I don't know what he needs or what he doesn't need to do. I'm not going to be so smug as to think that this shows us a vulnerability. I think that this guy was a liability from the very beginning of the campaign. But
And I would agree.
It does. It's interesting how after going against the establishment this entire time, he's trying to embrace the Republican National Committee, to have them do campaigning for him, to have them raise his money, to have them do all these different things in the states so that he can focus on, tweeting and doing rallies and national appearances. I don't know how well that's going to work in a general election campaign. I don't know that the National Committee has those kind of resources, have that kind of infrastructure to be able to run a general election presidential campaign as a principal. That's sort of the candidate's job. Number two, by doing so, he's embracing the establishment and also betraying his campaign fundraising numbers that came out were terrible. And I wonder if that shows us two things about Donald Trump. One, he is capable of exerting discipline over himself in short bursts. I don't think that he's capable of doing it over the long run. Two, I think that what his attitudes to the RNC recently and his campaign fundraising numbers demonstrate, and coupled with a lot of his other behavior with calling into radio talk shows and doing things and doing rallies instead of like grassroots campaigning, I think he's a fundamentally lazy candidate. I'm not going to say that this guy's a lazy businessman. Obviously, he's had some success in his life and he knows how to get things done from a business perspective, but he doesn't like to do the things that candidates like to do. He's not on the phone raising money. Well, he's not going to battleground states. He's going to Texas and California. Doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense why he's holding rallies in places he doesn't need or can't win.
Well, and listen, I'm not going to second guess Donald Trump. I agree with you that Lewandowski was a terrible choice. The guy got to where he was, operating the way he did, and Steve Deace said today, Donald Trump can't win. Well, he has won. He beat your candidate, beat the pants off your candidate.
Yeah, beat him by a lot.
Yeah, and the bottom line is Trump now realizes, holy cow, I need to change what I'm doing. I believe the RNC has the resources to help Trump win if they desire to do so.
These last 6 weeks, do you think that he underestimated Hillary Clinton?
Well, I think what happened as soon as he got the nomination, the media turned on him. Because think about it. We talked about it. The media loved him, right? Great for numbers.
Well, they didn't love him.
No, but
they liked having him around.
Yeah, they liked having him around. And then the liberal media does what the liberal media does, and that is, great, we were able to nominate the person we want, now we're going to tear him down. The last thing, I'm going to take this last point tonight because we got to close out the show. Mitt Romney had actually outspent and I think outraised Obama in this last election cycle. He still had $30-40 million left on the last day of the campaign. And let's face it, Obama wiped the floor with him. I do believe that money does equal success in a lot of ways. But with social media, I think the influence of just the dollars you spend on votes has gone more by the wayside. So I do believe that even though he has poor fundraising numbers, I don't think it's going to be a reflection of how poorly he's going to do because he's run a completely different campaign. Now, you singing or dancing or smoking weed anywhere this week?
I'm doing all three as soon as we get off the air.
All right, good deal. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We'll be back right after this week.
Hi, I'm Representative Tom Shaw, and I love these guys. Both of them.
Love these guys. Get over here. Love both of them.